Dungeon
Our next
Doomans.
topic.
Let's
topic?
talk lore.
Okay.
A
Big
What are we
podcast.
topic.
talking about now?
Before we
Yes.
get into it,
Roll
roll
high
and
and
subscribe. Jinx. The emotional side of D&D.
Yeah.
Power of friendship. Chris,
Well,
go. Chris, let it rip.
It's not always friendship. There's a lot of sadness and happiness, and I think if you're playing enough with close enough friends or people who you feel comfortable with, the game will get emotional in some ways when characters die. I mean, I know when I've had when Lone Star died, I was incredibly sad that whole night.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome, dude. It was amazing.
Until I made Wilbur.
And when
Same night,
and
I
when
knew if I didn't make Wilbur that night, it would. I wouldn't be able to wait 2 weeks.
and when Wilbur died, no one cares.
No.
I'm just kidding. I cared.
When
It was
Wilbur
great.
died, I realized don't make really, really good two-shoe characters.
The emotional side of D&D.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part thing. It's
Right.
one, it's you and your friends playing the game,
Right.
but it's also your role-playing characters playing the game.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be with the right group of people
Of
to
course.
feel comfortable enough to open up enough to role play like very emotional stuff.
Right.
Like when you start digging into backstory or loss or grief or any other topics that can really define a character, it can get emotional, and especially if you've been playing with characters long enough, their interactions might create relationships or will create relationships, and events might happen in the game that tear those relationships apart.
One of the things it said, or my research has said, is that building the connections between characters is one way to increase your level of emotion in the game. And what they're saying is have your characters, like you were talking about before, in the previous episode of characters' backstories, allow your DM tip, that is, allow your players to mingle amongst each other and help create. Do they know each other? Are they rivals from different factions? You've created a character in my world, and you're located here, and this guy's located over here, but both towns and I say, okay, well, just know that when you're creating your characters and you want to be in these areas, there is a fight over water. So, like, let's just say you've created an orc in the desert, and you know that the centaurs are fighting over the water. Perhaps there's a little rivalry between the two of your characters. Allowing your characters to sort of world build within the group is very, very important, and it would seeing that interaction dichotomy between the two players develop as it goes on it would be an emotional hook, I would say.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I love to do when I'm playing is try and have some tie or some connection, like a more direct than just we're in a party together with one other character in the group. So if we're playing this example, I was playing a cleric? Yeah, I was playing a cleric, and we're going into the Underdark. And another party member, we're playing a bunch of old guys. So I was an old cleric who was a cook, and the other party member was an old guy who didn't have teeth. So I wanted to make a connection there because I thought it was funny. I say, I'll make pudding that this other character loves to eat pudding because he has no teeth. It's some stupid little thing like that, but it's a connection. It's something that we can talk about, joke about in game, in character, that draws the players, the human characters or human players a little bit closer together. And that's something I try and switch up whoever I'm playing with at the table. Whatever adventure that we're going through, try and find another connection there to help build that connection at the table. And those connections often create those emotional moments.
Right. And bonds. So it's like bonds.
Yes.
So
Very
instead
much
of
so.
instead of attacking the villain that you're next to, perhaps you sacrifice your turn and heal your friend that's in need. That is a lasting. That is an action that I promise you will always be remembered. Always.
You go out of your way to protect
Right.
some other character for something.
Yeah, or you save his life. Maybe maybe it feels maybe it's so bad. And if you're a good DM, that's when you back away a little bit and and roll some misses or whatever.
Well, I think, especially in combat, a great DM lets a conversation expend a little bit. When you see those moments of this emotion coming out or some cool thing happening, it's always one of those things of like, I want to stay out of this, let this beauty happen however it's going to be, and then step in when you need to.
Yeah. And if
because those situations are precious, are what I love about D&D.
I feel like if your character was afraid of spiders and there was a spider, a small one, not even less than an HP, my character looking at your character, noticing that he's upset and scared of the spider, killing the spider in front of him for him and eating it. I feel like that would be an action. Yeah, an action that would be remembered and create a little bit of a bond. And your character would probably say, you know what, this guy is not that bad. He saved me there. Maybe I'll save him here. Or, I hope he survives.
Or you never know when you get the rare off chance romantic relationship between characters.
Well, you're working on that. You're working on that.
I've been in your campaign. I've been working on that since day one. I was gonna have Aranis, or no, I was gonna have Rena be attracted to Aranis or Sprock because I didn't know who else was playing. I'm like, we're gonna make this game weird for one of these guys.
If you chose Jake, it would have been hard. It would have been disadvantaged the whole time because you guys would be, But yeah, I feel like those emotional climaxes help. Like you're in the battle, you heal someone, or you could also have an argument. You can also have an argument with the characters during downtime over a campfire that shows itself in the battle or in the puzzle. Maybe you guys are talking about why you shouldn't go in here because it's dangerous, and then the group decides to go in. That one character's like, Jesus, I really didn't want to go in here, and the other character who convinced him to go in is now going to go first and disarm the trap, and when he disarms the trap, he's going to look back and say, "See, I told you, it's not that bad."
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's those are memorable moments of little bits of things that the hooks that connect those connections in there, and you're going to have those hooks and connections with all your players around you, and the more you tie in, the more it's going to hurt when those get yanked out.
Yeah,
those betrayals in the story, and that's the cool thing with as a DM when you're trying to help encourage some emotional elements at the table. It's like the backstories of the players. You see how they're interacting with each other. It's very easy for you to pull out pull out the chair when you need to and let them fall.
So I had put Drake the barbarian in to save you. It didn't work out. But that Drake was coming in as a good guy and he loves fighting. And he tried to save your guys' lives.
Well, and then the emotion of Rena in that situation, before you rush in, Rena's there. He turns and sees Drake. he in that moment knows he's going to die.
Right.
And he is scared. Drake just is there. He knows what he's going to do. He has that connection to him and knows his personality enough to know the outcome of what's going to happen.
But then, fast forwards like 6 months, you guys are in the desert, and you climb up on the mound of sand and look over, and you see these slave traders, and there are people shackled to one another as they sell off the orcs that they've captured, and Drake is in one of the shackles. And not only did I hear someone say, I believe it was you, "Oh yes, yes, are you kidding me? Fuck yeah!" It's part of my French. That type of interaction, like the real world interaction, is what we're going for. That was awesome. And he didn't even join the group. He just sort of showed you, "Oh, I've heard that they are. I'm going to try."
Yeah, it's like I'm busy with something else.
Yeah, but here's a little information for your searchings that you're trying to find, blah blah blah. So the heartfelt, emotional scenes will develop, I think, naturally, like sort of like that.
Well, and I think if you're telling the story of our campaign to someone, like someone who actually wants to listen to it, not my wife, you're gonna pretty much be telling like emotional hit after emotional hit. The story is the things that stick around. Like there's like certain beats of the story that go, but a lot of that is the emotion that's built through all the characters, is those connections, is how they're interacting with each other. And that's D&D. That's the beauty of it.
It is. So I feel like, to summarize the brief topic on emotions, I feel like
be okay.
Yeah,
be okay to share your emotions.
Be okay, and like you have to role play it, really. But what do you share a little bit of your character's backstories? Like, what do you want? What is your character doing? Is he a thief? Well, this paladin doesn't like thieves. Well, maybe you roll a little charisma to see against his thing, to see if you convince him. And then there's no PvP, but maybe the paladin has decided that he doesn't he overpowers your charisma with his own charisma, and he doesn't believe you or doesn't trust you. But then later on in the story, as a player, you steal something that the paladin needs. Now you're in an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's and as a DM, I think it's your job to be able to not job, it's your opportunity to slide those envelopes under the right doors.
Yeah. I think a good way also to, as a player, and I'm going to start doing this, but more people have to die. Chris, wink, wink. Toasting the fallen comrades.
Yeah. Well, you know what we need to do? That needs to be a new tradition. We're starting that tradition next game. Before we start, we're going to toast all of the fallen comrades.
Ooh. I like that.
We'll see if that stays, but I'm going to start it.
But until then,
roll high
and subscribe. And if you want a topic covered, leave it in the comments. We'll be happy to discuss it with you next time.
Dungeon Doom Hands, Let's Talk Lore, a podcast.